How long have you been married, and how did you meet?
21 years this last December 31st.
And we met at church. Only because I was newly divorced and I was looking for a new church, and my sister and brother-in-law said, you should come to our church. And I said, well, I'll come to your church, but I am not going to a singles class. And I went into the class that was not a singles class, but he was in there. He was in there too, because he wasn't going to go to a singles class.
Just tell me a little bit about sort of your background as you were coming in. You'll tell a little bit about the fact that you don't have kids, and she did, and how that sort of affected this a little bit.
Well, I had been here since I was 17 years old in Antioch, and just stayed even after my divorce. I had met my ex-wife here, and that didn't work out. That's a Paul Harvey page 2 story. We'll do that some other time. But then when Debbie and I met, I don't know about her, but for me, I think it was love at first sight. I really do. I think I would have married her the first Sunday morning I met her if the preacher would have performed the ceremony.
Oh. And the preacher was Pete.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay, as far as I had 4 children. So, I knew chances of ever finding somebody that would want to marry you that had already instant family was probably slim to none. So Danny was willing to take on the challenge.
What was the challenge of blending families? Now you're not only a new husband, you're a stepfather. How'd you deal with that, and how did you deal with that, Debbie? Just talk about that a little bit.
It was a challenge. In this class that Deb teaches at the Agape Women's Center, she references this, and it took about 5 good years for our families to blend. I won't tell the stories unless you want to. That's up to you. But there was many times during the first 5 years that I think either one of us was ready to throw in the towel and say, do you want to leave or you want me to leave? It was quite a challenge. More so than I had expected. I'll be honest, it was a lot bigger challenge than I had expected, or at least I thought. And so, yeah, I was ready to quit numerous times.
If you haven't figured it out, Danny's pretty much of a stickler for do as I say. And so there were challenges with the kids because they didn't want to do what he said, and which put me in the middle because I was constantly caught in the middle between trying to, be his wife and be their mom and taking up sides, which caused a lot of issues.
How did that eventually change?
Can I tell the story?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The story, how that changed was there was a lot of times during that 5 years, and I just shared this story with our class tonight, that we both thought, what are we doing? We must be crazy. This is not going to work. But we had made a commitment to each other and to God that we did not want to go down that road again. No way, no how. Even though it would have been very easy to have done that, as far as life would have seemed a lot simpler, because there was so much conflict between, especially our oldest and Danny. Now the youngest and Danny, Sarah, they got along famously, but Angie and Danny had a lot of issues, to the point where they were constantly battling with each other about where to park her car, and he would come home and chain her car to the basketball goal. He threw away bags of clothes into the dumpster. He would get her up in the middle of the night, make her put the lettuce back in the refrigerator. But at the same time, he taught him how to drive. He bought Angie her first car. I mean, he did a lot of those great things that they didn't have anybody else to do it for them. So what brought us together finally, and I tell this all the time, Matthew brought us together because we brought this little fat bald-headed baby into our home, and he wasn't my blood, he wasn't Danny's blood, he was ours. And he's really what bonded us together as a family. And from that point on, we sort of had a focus of this little bald-headed baby, and it took the pressure off of everything else, and that's how we really blended. And to this day, Angie and Danny and the boys and Sarah, they're best friends now, and they, I think, can appreciate a lot more about the things that Danny has done.
What do you know about marriage now that you wish you'd known years ago, that you wish you'd known sooner?
Don't take it for granted.
How expensive it is.
So what advice would you give to someone younger, or even friends thinking about a blended marriage? What advice would you give to someone getting married?
I always tell them, number one, it's a commitment. And it's a commitment that's not only made between the two of you, it's a commitment with God. And number two, I would say, as far as being a blended family, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some effort. It's not going to be easy, but it can work. 21 years later, we're still married.
And one person can't make it work. It's just like anything else, whether it's the perfect marriage or the second go around. Both parties have got to want it to work, and they've got to work towards that goal, or it's not going to work.
And you have to have some stick-to-itiveness. You can't just give up at the first sign of trouble.